Good morning, Seawolves! Are you ready for the fight for Capo Finisterre? Because we have some really interesting stuff to talk about this morning. Of course, with some coffee, since I'm actually a little bit more early today as I actually planned to be posting. So for those of you who also have something delicious, let's go 3, 2, 1. That's just what we need before we do one of these analyses, isn't it? So let's get started. Well, if you took a look at the tracker this morning, you probably were wondering, are these guys all racing the same race? Because as you can see, they seem to really be all over the place. And that's basically what you get when you combine a giant zone of very light and very variable weather with a zone with lots and lots of traffic, with a zone of lots of government zoning inside the sea, separation zones, etc., to manage all of that sea traffic, plus a rocky, deadly shoreline and a impeding big storm. So you add that all up together and we have the fight for the Capo Finisterre. So quite a dramatic situation. It's not going very fast, but this is some real tactical sailing, and really fun to see that my prediction yesterday came more or less true. So between 2 and 4, most of the boats tacked at the earliest opportunity and started moving straight south and as much west as they could, which wasn't much west, was mostly just south, putting most of the fleet right above the Cape this morning. They actually really didn't make as much progress as I thought, because once again we ran into inaccurate weather predictions. So the wind was predicted to be variable but not that light, and so the boats made significantly less speed. For my initial calculations, I thought that the fleet would probably be quite a bit past this little cape already, but no, they're all still above it. And also, amazingly, Jean Le Cam has managed to hold on to the lead. So far his much more southern route really paid off. As one of the non-foilers, he is, I guess, really showing the foiling fleet what a non-foiler can do. And also very interesting that the foiling boats are obviously much faster. Pretty much all of them have made a lot more distance, so they've made already like 10 to 15% more miles than most of the non-foiling boats, yet they really haven't translated that into any significant lead within the total field of the race. So that's kind of interesting to think about, actually. You have a set of boats that's a lot faster, and right away we're confronted with the question, if you have a faster boat, are you starting to care less about tactics, maybe? Like, I don't know if that's true, but could we say that, for the foiling boats that are definitely, maybe 20% faster than the non-foiling boats, for them to end up really virtually with no advantage yet after about 48 hours in the race, is it just bad luck with the weather, which is totally possible in this case? Or, are we starting to see also that maybe the faster boats have deteriorated the tactics a little bit there? I find it very interesting that Jeremy Bijou of Royale, definitely the race favorite, is pretty much, together with Quorum, are the two foiling boats that are really proving their skill in tactics so far. So they were leading in the pack of foilers that kind of broke off of the main race and headed north a little bit yesterday and were quite out of position once the wind changed, but they completely made up for that, and actually especially Royale was able to get back from that position back into the second position now, or first. They're ping-ponging back and forth between Jean Le Cam and Jeremy Bijou. So that's really impressive that he's actually so far been able to stay at the head of the pack and lost his significant lead for a while there with the wind change, but got right back into position. Once again, I think confirming that his prior experience with the boat, having the most hours and miles on his boat so far before the race, this experience so far is really paying off and he's doing really great so far. So that's very interesting to see. Now let's look at the weather predictions for today. So here we see the fleet, as I mentioned already, very dispersed, everybody taking different courses and basically fighting to get around the Cape of Finesterre, which is located here. So that's that little squiggly point here that's actually pointing south, but that's the cape that we're all trying to get around right now. And very close to the cape you can see here, Yes We Can by Jean Le Cam, definitely I think in the best position to actually pass the cape right now. He's already on a course, has a really good direction, and a little bit to the west of him we see Royale, who is currently, you know, by measure in the first position, but you know, as you can see, his wind direction is a lot less favorable to actually make some southerly action, so we'll see how that holds. But my money is on Jean Le Cam being the first to pass the cape and really make significant distance downward together with the pack here, so that it also includes Groupe Goupil, VMB Mayenne and Pure Best Western Hotel. So these guys over here are definitely in the best position, I think, right now. Then we see up here that several of the foilers decided to break away again and head west. And when we look at the weather prediction later, we'll see that that actually also really makes sense. And in essence, that's also the same, you know, what Royale and Coram and Apiva and all the guys down here are doing. So let's move over to the wind prediction, shall we? So again, we see that we have a lot of non-reliability in the weather. So yesterday the prediction was that, let's move by the way to right now, so this is right now. Yesterday the prediction was that this storm was going to come in actually quite a bit earlier and that it would be positioned quite a bit more to the east. Right now we're looking at 12 o'clock today, and as we move over to 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, and midnight, we see that actually, though the storm is still coming by, if the weather prediction is correct now, it's been pushed towards the west quite a bit, opening up a lot more space for our contestants to actually seek up this zone of green and orange and actually make good speed and start beating down here. With the storm, you know, it is hitting tomorrow, but as we let the prediction progress, we see that it actually leaves a lot more space. And so here we're looking at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we see that actually the storm has already almost passed the cape there, just much more to the west. So, you know, this is really giving a lot of hope that as long as the boats keep making their way down, and they don't even have to be that close to the coast, and just, you know, find a good position so that, you know, if they're in a good position, say around, well, I would say 6 in the morning tomorrow morning. So if they can manage to be around here around 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, which will be quite a battle to get there because it's upwind all the way, remember? But if they can manage that, then they can basically choose a course west, and as they progress throughout the day, the storm will just give them great wind, and all of the really troublesome weather will pass to the north of them, and they can just you know, fairly easily find this little slip and pass through this little you know, doldrum / transition area between the cold and the warm air here, and then they should have a real great time making their way down afterwards. And so that's probably what we're going to see them do tomorrow. But now let's look at the complexity of the situation today, because as I mentioned at the head of this video, it's not just weather that our beautiful sailors have to deal with today. So here we see the Cape, but when we look at the marine traffic, we see actually that you know, this is a very busy area as far as marine traffic goes. You can actually see the fleet here, all these little pink dots are actually sailing boats, but you also see a lot of orange ones, which are for the most fishing boats, and of course we have all the greens and the reds, which are, you know, big cargo boats and the like. And so as you can see, lots of boats, lots of fishing action around. Hugo Boss reported that yesterday he got one of his kegs around a fishing net and had to remove that. So that's also something that all the sailors will have to deal with. And when we look at the Navionics chart viewer here and we look at the Cape and we zoom in, you see the other complexity, which is this, the traffic separation zone, which is exactly at the same latitude as the Cabo Finisterre. And so when we take this map into account and then look back at the tracker, so you can see that same area in red, highlighted here, that's an area that the boats simply aren't allowed to go in, so they have to kind of go around this. And that of course makes it very hard and also makes it very busy, because this area is very busy in itself, but there are also constantly boats going into this area because cargo boats, etc., have to pass through here. It's what they call a traffic separation scheme. So on the one hand we have boats going in one direction, and on the other hand we have boats going in the other direction. And so above and below this, there's a busy continuing stream of boats that our sailors constantly will have to dodge. And so that's basically what we're going to be seeing over the next 24 hours or so, is if we take a closer look. So the fleet right now is more or less right above the Cape here, in the right of the screen. Now let's take a little look closer at the weather. So this is 8 o'clock tonight, and we can see that basically all of this area now has a good wind for them to beat into. And then through the night, they should be able to make their way down just a little bit more. Let's move to, so this is midnight, then we see the much stronger winds coming in, and then around 12 o'clock we see that once again the worst of it will be done. And hopefully all of them, so around, like I said, around maybe 5, somewhere between, let's say, 2 and 4 o'clock in the morning, they should take whatever position they have and start moving west as the storm passes over them. Now that is today, but of course I know that many of you will have had a look at the weather predictions for the next 4 or 5 days, and I guess you all know what I'm talking about now. Let's take a look, because down the path for the racers, we see that, let's go to right now, that there is a massive low pressure developing here. It's actually well, it looks a lot like a tropical storm, isn't named yet, hasn't reached those wind speeds yet, I think, but it's definitely developing into a tropical storm. And counter to those, usually of course moving to the west and then building and building as they go over the Atlantic Ocean and finally hitting somewhere in the US. This one is definitely heading the other direction. And so as we can see, this is a Wednesday midday. And then as we move into Thursday, we can clearly see that this enormous beast is looking to go straight for the fleet. And well, I'm on Thursday now. And Thursday to Friday is the time that once the sailors have made it through, today and avoided the storm that they'll be hitting tonight, that will put them really right in the path of this beast. And so if we look at some possible tactics, because if we go to Friday, for example, we see that this is really going to basically engulf the whole area and create very unfavorable sailing situations for the sailors. And so the choice that all of the sailors are going to have to make, and they're going to have to make that choice pretty soon. It's going to be somewhere today or maybe somewhere before, say, noon tomorrow. So when the situation comes to this point, because this is the window. Here they have a chance to switch, so to go through the barrier here, move into this other wind system and have favorable winds down. But of course, that means that once they go into the system, they will have to pass this storm on the western side, because once you go through there, it's basically not feasible or a good idea to try to move back at some point and go underneath this storm on the east side. So making the switch means going a lot more west and, you know, using this system and skirting the outskirts of this system to make their way down. While if they decide to stay on the other side, we're going to keep this very variable patch of air, better wind, of course, along the coast of Africa, but yeah, very much not ideal sailing circumstances. And as you can see, the window closing fast because they need time to get west enough in order to avoid this storm. So that means a lot of westing. But if they want to stay on the east side, they also need quite a bit of time and a lot of navigation to find their way through this and avoid the worst of it. And I would say by Saturday, they better make damn sure that they're to the east and a little bit downwards of this storm if they want to avoid the worst of it. And that puts them right before the Palms and the Gran Canarian Islands. All of that is just not really great. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what choice the sailors are going to make. So to sum that all up, it hasn't been easy so far, and it's definitely not going to get any easier for the next 5 or 6 days. So right now we have a fleet that has had barely any sleep. They're probably not going to get much more sleep over the next probably 6 days, because it's going to be either staying very much variable and they have to do a lot of navigation if they pick the east side of this storm, or if they decide to go to the west of this once they make their way past the Cape, then it's going to be a real race to get the absolute maximum speed out of the boat to get west enough to avoid this storm on that side. And if they're able to do that, then of course they will have some trade winds and a giant advantage to make their way down. So risk, reward, we're not going to see. That's of course what this race is all about. So I hope you liked my analysis for today. Please like, subscribe, etc. But I see that you guys are really doing that, so thank you very much. We have a website, it's called seawolvestv.com. If you want to support the channel, be a backer. I'm very happy to see that over the last 2 days lots more backers have jumped on, so you know, please keep doing that. It's great to see that you guys are loving the videos and want to do something to also help me make the videos better. And I'll see you all tomorrow morning. Have a great racing day.